I'm Jake, and I've just finished printing a pattern for a Griffin plush. I did the initial 3D modelling in Blender, then from there I used Plushify to turn it into a proper sewing pattern with all the seams and the different materials that I was going to need, and along with the seam allowance. My plan for the fabrics that I'm going to use, it's going to have a little bit of short fur on the face, but mostly longer fur throughout the bird part of the Griffin. Up the initial muscular part of the wings is going to be long fur as well. There's going to be more in a shorter length along this lion part here. I've actually changed the plan to a darker brown here, almost a chocolatey colour rather than the sand. Then the scaly parts of the arms are going to be faux suede, as well as the beak and just the inside bit of these little ears, and the tiny little section you can see where the eye is going to sit, that's also going to be faux suede. There is a wider part of the tail, so the underside of that is going to be minky, as well as all of these feather parts, and up here is black minky. Then on the top of the tail, I will either be doing a minky on the top of the tail, or if I have got some leftover of the longer fur, that will be going on the top of the tail too. The expected length is going to be about 2.5 meters from the tips of these little claws down to the tip of the tail, and I think it was a very similar distance from the tips of the wings down to the bottom of where these paws sit. At the moment, the expected number of pieces is about 230. However, a lot of these ones weren't counted since they're modelled as a plane, so they were only read as one single piece rather than two. So each one of them will be doubled and then doubled again because there's two wings. Just finished cutting out all the pieces for the Griffin, so I've got a couple of different piles. I've got a big pile over here full of all the longer wing pieces and a couple of the big tail pieces. Then most of the other stuff is sorted into little Ziploc bags. So I've got all of the stuff for the head and the face here. So you've got the beak in that one. You've got a smaller one under here just for the face pieces. And then in the back of that one, you've got all the ears. In the next bag, I've got the stuff for the arms, so you've got the main pieces out the back, and a couple of smaller Ziploc bags, so you've got all the arms scales that are going on the front of the arms, then you've got all of the claws in that second Ziploc bag in the back. Then for the legs, same thing, you've got all the big pieces, and then some of the stuff for the paws, and just some of the littler stuff here. Then you've got all the stuff for the wings and the tail, so those are the smaller ones, so like the single primary feathers. You've got the littler pieces of the wing, and some of the smaller tail pieces. You can see the diagonal ones back there for the tail. Then you've got all of the main pieces of the body, so that goes all the way from the top of the neck, all the way down the back and underneath, all the way to the tail. I've also got this little claw piece that I'm going to be testing. I didn't put that on the original pattern, so that's just an extra one I made up and printed. So I'll be testing that to make sure that it fits before I actually print a proper pattern for them, because I might do a couple of different ones. These are all the fabrics that I've bought for the Griffin. So you can see over here I've got some of the longer furs, so you've got the long white fur, this orangey browny colour, and then under here you've got some longer black fur, so they should be about all the same length and same sort of backing. Over here we've got this dark chocolatey colour that I'm going to be using for the top of the lion, and underneath it we've got this whitish cream colour, so that's the underside of the lion and some of the smaller features. I think there's one little spot on the face that it's going to be. The black over here, so I've got this black, which should be the same one as this, just in a different color, or I've got this slightly thicker black, so depending on how each one works with everything else, I might end up using this thicker black. And in this pile we've got the two minkies, so we've got the dark black minky and the white minky, so they'll be for the wings and the tail. Then we've got the pieces of faux suede, so I've got this one, which is the black, so that'll be used for the scaly part of the bird arm, and also on the beak and inside the ears. Then I've got some grey faux suede, and that'll be used a little bit on the beak and some little bits of white as well on the beak. And inside, I think the cheek has one little piece of the suede as well. So I'm going to be spending the next little while cutting all of these pieces out of fur and tallying up exactly how many pieces this is going to have total. It's going to be a massive project, so I will check back in once I have made a little bit of progress.